How will we ever find unity with so much division? How will we ever know the truth when people are offended by it? How will we step into a world that we're happy to hand over to our grandchildren? How do we do these things, right? How? Everybody has an idea, but they're pushing it at the end of a government gun. And the only people that are benefiting are those that own the corporations, those who are serving as public servants, and a few of the very obedient people who will never question authority. When we have people believing things instead of knowing them, it's easy to do immoral things if many people are willing to do it. If you're attempting to justify an immoral act that you wouldn't do to somebody in a private capacity, we can't legitimize it by saying, I'm just doing my job. That defers the responsibility of the order follower. If I give you an order to violate somebody's human rights, it's your duty to not do that. And we have to realize that human rights extend beyond a border that somebody somewhere fought for and made up. How do we do this? How do we move from authoritarian control, global war, stress and struggle for a lot of people to simply exist? By forcing it, it hasn't worked because those with the biggest muscles are driving the ship. But what if, instead of things being mandatory, they became voluntary? And with voluntary participation, only the good ideas get supported. And even if you believe something, it doesn't make it okay to push on other people. What we have to know is that if we're all equal, that means that there should be a defined level of self-ownership, because somebody somewhere else doesn't have the right to tell you what to do. Now, if you're doing things that are harming other people, the natural laws of cause and effect are the best, most efficient form of correcting behavior. The justice system has been a revolving door, a hardening facility benefiting corporate profit and putting people back on the streets likely to reoffend. That doesn't sound like rehabilitation to me. Just like our landscapes are dehydrated. They suffer drought almost every year. Yet we're not implementing projects to solve the problem. We're just crying for more money to help manage the fires and the flooding and the erosion and the drought and the famine, right? I mean, all of these problems that we see in society, they have solutions. They haven't been advertised to you because nobody's making big money on it. I mean, the beaver works for free when you let them. But when their work interferes with infrastructure that man has put in place, they get relocated or unalived. The root of many of our problems is belief systems. You know, the first letter of those words is BS. People say, I have faith in my belief. And that's extremely scary. Now, if you have faith in a knowing, that's empowering, right? Because you know that you can have faith when you know something. I know that I shouldn't ever hit or steal from other people. My mom taught me that at a very young age. But if somebody gives me a badge and a costume and an order to go do that, does that make it a moral act? I've worn the uniform of law enforcement, and we're trained during an interview to be able to get as much information from you and circumvent your rights by allowing you and coercing you basically to just give up your information of all types that can be used against you, even if you haven't harmed somebody. That's preemptive. Well, you might. That's just like you might run into somebody um, if you drive on the road, right? So you have to have insurance. It's really expensive. It's paying for criminal activity to occur. There's a lot of things that just don't make sense, and people have not been offended by what doesn't make sense for a long time. They've just accepted it as the new normal. But we need to realize that the new normal has children and many adults choosing to self-exit this experience at record numbers, and depression and anxiety and stress, mental dis-ease is through the roof. My estimate is that over 70% of our population is suffering from one of those items, at least, right? And sometimes they're not willing to face them, so television programming or regular meals, get 4 or 5 meals a day sometimes to distract ourselves from thinking about the things that are important. And right now is the only time that we have power. People say someday I'm going to get in shape, someday I'm going to educate myself, someday I'm going to take a vacation, someday I'm going to do this, but I've never seen someday on a calendar. Right now is when we can each choose, I am not going to hit or steal from anyone else, or I'm not going to hit or steal anyone else. You know what I'm saying? And I won't support hiring somebody to do it for me, because that's hypocrisy, right? If we wouldn't do something, but then we'll hire somebody to do it for us, there's still a certain level of responsibility that we need to be aware of. So anyway, I mean, I'm really confident that when people come together under a common idea, my idea for me is, in my now moments, I look to build health, happiness, peace, and abundance in what I experience in my life. And so it is. Regularly, I'm given the true feeling of health, happiness, peace, and abundance. Sometimes people try to deflect me from that, by a myriad of ways, right? But how long am I going to allow what somebody else does to affect me, right? I mean, I can't. I don't want to control anybody. I can't control anybody. It's a big enough job for me to be me in the way that I want to be, right? Why would I think that I have the uh, the power, the authority, the grand wisdom that I need to be the boss of everybody? I actually don't want to be anybody's boss. Like I said, it's a big enough job for me to be me. I'm willing to make these videos. I'm willing to share ideas because if you like these ideas and you want those things in your life, then um, I've learned ways to help make that happen. With meditation, we help to train our brain. We find calmness and peace, and we're able to take all of the things that we know and formulate an ethical standard of how to live in the right now moment. When I'm given an opportunity to help somebody, I try to say yes as often as possible, because it's hard for people to ask for help, right? And when they do ask for help, I like to try to, if it's within the realm of my ability, I want to help them, right? Because I've had people help me before, and I was very thankful, and it made me feel like somebody actually gave a shit, right? When we all start acting like we give a shit, the world will turn into a beautiful place.